All right, welcome to Rev Up. So I'm Thomas Watson. I'm broker in charge with Realty One Group Revolution, also instructor for this Rev Up session. So hope everyone is doing great. See if I can advance these slides. Our topic today is establishing your brand and developing your farm. So what you'll find is in the 12-week rev ups, we can't cover everything. So a lot of them are double topics. So these kind of go hand in hand. So that's why we're talking about your brand and your farm this morning. All right. As always, guess what? We have our affirmations. Why do we do our affirmations? Somebody tell me. Nobody wants to say why we do affirmations.
So we believe them.
There you go. All right. So seeing is believing, hearing is believing. No, once you verbalize something, it does something different to you in your brain. I'm not going to go through all of that. The cognitive process is how we learn. But when we say it out loud, when we hear it back, is when we start to get it. So I'm going to read this affirmation and then we'll say it together. This affirmation number 2 says, I have written goals in all the key areas of my life, and I love to track my activities and results, seeing the progress I am making. All right, so let's all say it together on 3. 1, 2, 3. I have written goals in all the key areas of my life, and I love to track my activities
and results,
seeing the progress
I am making.
All right, cool, good. So we have this for a reason. So we have written goals. Why? Because if they're not written, they're not going to happen. Okay. In all key areas of my life, we'll talk about that a little bit. And I love to track. So tracking should become a habit for you as a sales professional. You need to know your numbers. You need to know where you've been so that you can forecast, predict future business. All right. And then when we see the progress we're making, what does that do inside of us? It spurs us on. It gives us motivation. Okay. So the learning objectives for this lesson are talking about learning your one value proposition, creating your initial branding, email signatures, voicemail greetings, digital and print media, branding recognition with consistency, the philosophy of farming, types of farms, researching and choosing a farm, outlining the farm touches, walking your farm, and maintenance of your farm. And guess what? A lot of these are activities that you will do. We will cover them, but then you'll do them on your own or with your mentor. All right. So when we talk about establishing our brand, the question we ask is, what is your OVP? And we call it our one value proposition. In business school, you probably heard it as what? Maybe a UVP, unique value proposition, whatever. Okay, same thing. So what is it that attracts clients to us? This is what we should be thinking about. Why should a client associate themselves with me and my company? So number 1, that gives you a hint. You want to talk about you and your company, okay? Now, how much do you say? Well, I've given you a template. Well, I will email you a template of what I have written, but let's go ahead and look into it. Creating your one value proposition is to define your uniqueness as a real estate professional and clearly state the benefits for your clients, such as, why should a client associate with me and my company? Because I have achieved XYZ, my company's benchmarks are XYZ. What do I provide is the second area. What is it that makes you unique? How can you provide that information to them? So for the most part, I would like to say, if you go into the area here, what do you provide? Market area expertise and fast service, something on that order. So a lot of agents will say that, but they don't live up to it. They don't do that. So what are the pain points of some of the clients that you've worked with? That's the questions that you're going to answer in this OVP. And what makes me unique? How do I set myself apart from other agents? So I don't think, I don't have an example on the slide, but it's the email worksheet or worksheet I'll email you. But I'll give you an example for me. I've been in real estate for over 16 years, and I've also been in the military for 20 years. So my OVP, I mentioned my leadership skills as obtained in the military during my time of service. So what I want my clients to see is, hey, yes, I have other areas that I lead in other than real estate, but the main thing is my experience as a military officer has helped me as a real estate professional. And then I give them like 3 characteristics of that. So once you see that worksheet, it'll make a lot more sense. We just don't have time to go over all of them and get through the content in an hour. Any questions so far? Anybody want to take a stab at what your OVP is? What makes you unique as a real estate professional?
I'm an appraiser.
Okay, there you go. That adds to the value. Okay,
That's very unique. Yeah.
Yep, it is. Not many appraisers or any, the appraiser field is very tight. I hear that unless we get more appraisers trained, we're going to run out of the pool. The pool is going to run out. I don't know, or age out. But anyway, all right. What about you, Brian? I know a little bit about your background.
Appraiser was a good, a good one. I wish I had that one. I mean, I always tell people I work harder than anyone else. And that's what sets me aside. And usually when I have someone that I'm meeting with, I mean, typically they're an expired. So I mean, their complaints or their last agent didn't do a lot. And my value proposition is I'm going to exceed that. Yep,
that's great. That's a big one, because look, it doesn't matter what we know until we put it into action. If we can make it happen for our clients. And Brian, I know the sales background that you have, it should be part of your OVP. Okay, other than real estate sales, you've been in sales and been successful. So there you go. We'll work on that. And if you guys want to, as you want to craft them and like email it back to me and get my, my thoughts on it, my feedback, I'll be glad to do that.
All right.
All right, let's go on to the next slide. Okay, creating your individual branding. We're going to talk about some things that are very simplistic but crucial. Realty One Group does provide you an email signature, a branded email signature. If you will go to One Login and go to the branding One Design, and then look on the left side, you should find a branding link. Anyway, you can download this or upload this to your email. By the way, these circle fields are updatable as the company updates them if you upload it the right way. So this looks real clean and crisp. I'm not telling you have to have this in this format, but it's professional. Have something similar. Okay, so be branded to your company. So an excellent email signature is not only your name, but it should state where you work, what you do, and how well you do it. It should also include all of your pertinent contact information, including links to your website, as well as any of your social media pages. Be sure to include a call to action in your signature block, such as a link to a free MLS home search. You will be sending, okay, so I'm reading something here. I just didn't want to miss it. Okay, so I tell you what I do is I have a link under my email signature here on the bottom, I've added a search thousands of properties. So that takes them to my website property search portal. But once they're on my website, if they look down the bottom of the page, they can find my social media. So, but you might want to make it easier, whatever. I would say whatever you want them to go to first and get engaged with you is what you should have here. All right. Now let's talk about voicemail greetings. So while I'm saying this, I want you to think, you're probably wondering, okay, what does my voicemail sound like? Have I changed it lately? Most of us haven't changed our voicemails in ages, right? So what you want to do here is create a 15 to 30 second, basically a mini commercial that will boost your business. So when somebody doesn't get you and they get to your voicemail, it's going to tell them who you are and what you do. Okay. Let it be a great first impression that sets you apart from other agents. So what's a one-liner? What's something you can say in 15 seconds that will set you apart in your voicemail? So think about it. Don't have a generic voicemail that people have heard over and over and over. You know, leave your name and number, I'll call you back, which is basically what mine is. Put something in there about, hey, I've sold this many properties in the last year. I want yours to be the next, or something unique to you and your OVP. Okay. All right. Any questions here?
Nope.
All right. Pretty basic. Make sure I didn't miss. Okay. So in everything that we do, guys, we want to make sure that we are consistent. We need to be consistent across all areas of marketing, including your logos, your slogans, your images. So for example, I'm looking at Brian's, just because I can see Brian's picture, logo or image right here on Zoom. So he's off camera, but I see his thumbnail with a brick wall behind him. So,
Okay, so
if he was going to use that picture, he would use that on his website, his email, his social media. He would be consistent using that picture across all of those areas.
view options? Give me
That's
some.
what we're talking about here. So same thing with your website. Your website should look like your Facebook page, your blog, etc. LinkedIn is set up a little bit different, but you can still have the same cover page behind LinkedIn. Your printed materials should match. The thing is, once you brand yourself, you want people to notice who you are without even seeing your picture. Okay. Once they see your email come across, they're like, oh, I know who that's from. Or once they see a postcard land in the mail and they see the color scheme or whatever, they know it's you. So that you're building your reputation, your brand recognition by doing those things. Again, it sounds very simple, but it's important. Okay, sorry, my scroll bar is getting ahead of me. All right, here's a question for you guys. Have you looked yourself up recently on Google? You Googled your name. What did you find? Darcy?
Me.
What did it say?
I am
Was it
all
good?
over the place. No. Briazano's all over the place. Go ahead.
Okay. So yeah, usually I've set up years ago, I set up an alert for my name in Google, and just about twice a week, an article featuring Thomas Watson, the founder of IBM, will show up. And guess what? I'll click on it and I'll read more about Thomas Watson from IBM, or Thomas Watson, the Puritan pastor from the 1600s, whatever. But the cool thing about it is, if someone says something about you, that's a good way to find out first, or when it happens. Okay. So I would say, tell you to go into Google and create a search for yourself, or any, you could do your company name or whatever. And that way, if somebody mentions you in a post or whatever, good or bad, you're going to be able to see it. It's going to send it to you via email. How do you look on Google? How do you look on Facebook? How do you look on LinkedIn? So those are some things I'll want you to go and look at and ask this question. after looking at these sites, if you were the one looking to buy a house, would you buy a house from you? Just based on your presence online. Okay. Scary question, but hey, one we need to ask based on what I'm seeing, what I hire myself. Okay. All right. That is the short and sweet of the branding right now. We'll talk about branding in other areas of Rev Up, but these are the basics. So make sure you get the basics right, get present, and be consistent. All right. Philosophy of farming. So how many of you have grown anything in the past?
I'm going to start now that I've actually planted myself in one position after 3 years.
Well, good. Brian, you ever planted or grown anything?
I lived in the country. I planted a lot of stuff.
Okay,
I
there you
was,
go.
I was on a farm. Yeah.
Yep, same here. And I used to have my own tomato, cucumber beds and all that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah.
So the philosophy of farming is the same as the agricultural farming. However, we're going to apply this to people. Okay. So when we talk about farming, the idea is to choose a specific area, a demographic or psychographic area, and specialize on it. Now, who knows what psychographic is? You Google it like I did. So it's basically a people group. It doesn't matter. It could be bikers. It could be Gen Xers, whatever. I like the geographical farming because you can farm neighborhoods, and I know price points in neighborhoods. So I figure if those people live in those price points, I don't care what they look like, what their habits are, where they go eat. I think I want to sell that house. So it's easy for me. So what you want to do is pick an area, and then you want to nurture it over time. You want to be that top of mind real estate specialist for that farm area. So for example, when we talk about planting the seeds, fertilize, then you're going to nurture, water, nurture it some more until it grows. And then eventually you're going to have a crop, or you're going to have a result. So what does that look like here? What would it be to plant the seed, Brian?
It's starting to get your name out there.
Absolutely. Yep. So there are plenty of trigger marketing companies that you could set up, and on a monthly basis or bi-weekly or whatever, they will send print postcards to certain areas or zip codes for you. Not real expensive unless you're talking about thousands of properties. But for example, around what I used to do, I probably should go back to it, but I'm not focused on production much anymore. But when I would have a listing, I would go do trigger marketing, and I would send postcards about myself to 200 homes around that listing. The same thing when I had a buyer under contract, I would go in that neighborhood and do 200 postcards saying, hey, I brought a buyer to this property. I can do the same for you. Anyway, those are seeds. However, one seed won't do the trick. Or maybe that seed will do the trick, but you have to reproduce it. Okay. So that's what the cultivate and nurture is. You got to be patient, and you got to keep doing the hard work. It will grow. Now, here's what I will tell you, and I tell newer agents trying to scale their business, don't do the farm method. You want to give yourself some time to create your brand, work your sphere of influence, build it through people who know, love, and trust you first. The farm method is building a brand in front of strangers. It takes longer. However, the agent that has, I would say, the leg up here is the agent who has already bought and or sold a property or two in this neighborhood. They already have some kind of sign presence, or maybe they live there. That's different. But anyway, anybody can start a farm. It just give yourself some time to see it grow and produce. Typically for a geographic farm, it's about a year before you see anything. It's about 2 years before you start having consistent business. Any questions there?
All good.
All right. So here we go. We got geographic farming. You can pick a community, neighborhood, or subdivision. Demographics based on client types. And then the psychographic, again, based on similar interest. Already covered that. All right, researching and choosing your farm. Well, there are a few different ways to do it. One thing I was going to mention here, because I think it's the next slide. Yeah. So I'm trying to decide what I'm going to say or not say. So that we have a farm analysis spreadsheet tool that we can use to calculate a potential return on neighborhood. That is one of the worksheets that I'm going to email you. And if we have time, I don't think we are, but it is self-explanatory pretty much. If you have any issues with it, get back to me and we'll go over it together. But what you can do is you can send out neighborhood updates digitally or by mail, print. You can walk your farm and hand out door hangers or meet people. And then research, basically, that's the area that you're going to do online. MLS, tax records, those kind of things. But in a typical farming choice, no matter what it is, you're going to do all of those at some point, in my opinion. Some title companies do have resources to provide you farm information based on zip code. I know that's mostly title companies out west. Since we're an attorney state, I haven't seen a title company that's offered that here, but you can always ask if you use a title company here. Realtor Property Resource, the RPR, which you see here on the screen. I highly recommend it. It's an extensive way to search properties. So you can find it in Canopy under resources, RPR, sign up for it, use it, it's free. There is a version you can upgrade and pay for if you're looking or if you're trying to help investors. So anyway. All right, let's see. Okay, what I mentioned before is there's a lot of companies that you can work through, and they already have this farm information. They already have the addresses, and basically it's a time saver because it saves you on the research end of it, so you can continue getting in front of people. So I would budget for it and pay those geographic farm services unless you're just starting in real estate and you have the time to do it yourself. Okay, so how do we research the neighborhoods? We do a physical inspection, we do drive-throughs, walkthroughs, we look at HOA documents. That's a really good way to find out how a community is operating. We preview active listings, also go and look at solds on MLS, and then we compare the features and benefits versus non-desirables. Like, for example, if you know that a community has a power line running across it, that's something you want to note because that's going to affect values. You know, in this market, people may be buying, but I remember when I couldn't sell a property because it had a power line running behind the backyard. Literally could not sell that property. So, all right. Recommended farm connections. All right, how can we make those connections? We can use an announcement letter, and I have a copy that I'm going to email to you. You can use a monthly newsletter. the circle prospecting, the social media. Again, there are companies that will send out postcards and make sure that you're retargeted for people who live in those neighborhoods, that you're retargeted on social media. So there's lots of different opportunities to get your information out there. Market updates, which will come right from the website that we offer you with one suite. All right, the details matter if you want results. So let's talk about the Farm Grid, Farm Connect Grid. So this is an excellent tool used to outline when, how, and what would be delivered to your farm. So it's really a planning tool to help you figure out how you're going to get in front of all of the people in your farm area. It'll help you have a consistent message. So if you send out a postcard every 2 weeks, and on each postcard you have a different photo, a different logo, or a different call to action, you're going to confuse people. So what you want to do is be consistent and have the same look every time you, now the message you put on there, like it could be a one-liner, like a joke, or it could be a recipe or whatever it is, but your branding is going to stay the same. Your clear call to action is going to be the same. Quality of materials. What I would say don't do is don't be that real estate agent that goes stuffs your 8x5 photocopied newsletter or one pager in people's mailboxes. I see agents do this all the time. They'll get in a training class, and you know it because they'll come and stuff these things in your mailbox. I mean, yeah, they're out there walking, but they're stuffing them in your mailbox. They look ugly. You can hardly read them. Don't do that. Spend a little extra money and put out quality. That's what people are going to look for. And make sure your call to action is on there. You know, click to my website, search properties here, contact me here for a free market analysis. All right, some ways to get it done, how to deliver this information. You can walk your farm, you can door knock, you can mail it, or you can do a combination of both. Tips on walking your farm if you're going to do it. I've done door knocking before, and it is effective. It is not my it's not my cup of tea. It's not my preferred method because it doesn't capitalize on my strengths, but it might be yours. Just be comfortable and professional. Make sure you go at times of the day that it would be effective, where people are actually home. Take a notepad to take notes for follow-up. Take your business cards, whatever it is you're handing out. So you'll want to make a note that whenever you have a special connection with somebody at their door, that you notate that so you can come back or actually send them a follow-up that's different from everybody else. And then just by walking the farm in general, you're going to find things out about the neighborhood. People are going to talk about other people or their properties. So I'm sorry for clicking back and forth here. My little scroll bar is not working right. All right, building your farm facts. You want to know how many homes are in the area or in that farm, how long it takes to walk it. Okay. Oh, and by the way, without door knocking, what you can do, especially this is a good way to get exercise in, is one morning or one afternoon, just walk this geographical area that you're farming and figure out how long it takes to walk the whole neighborhood. Okay. No pertinent information. You know, we've already talked about that a little bit. Any improvements, changes about the neighborhood, or maybe they're building something adjacent to the neighborhood you need to know about. Look for damages. What in the neighborhood is broken? Is it the community pool? Things like that. And that brings us to our last slide. And our last slide is what? Our one habit. So I'll go ahead and do this. So make sure each day you're working that you're making a minimum of 3 calls, new business, 3 calls. Okay. And then add those 3 people, get permission to add them to your database. You're going to send them a newsletter or email updates, market alerts, whatever it is. And then send 6 handwritten note cards, 3 to the 3 people that you just added to your database, and then 3 more that are already in your database that you haven't touched lately. Okay. This will help you scale your business. Now, I'm going to go out of here. I'm going to end my screen share. All right. What I want to do is, as soon as we get off of this webinar, I'm going to send you an email with the worksheets. But first, I want to ask, are there any follow-up questions? Anything that you have for me? This is a pretty
good.
Go ahead.
No, I think this is pretty good. Yeah.
It's short and sweet. And the way these rev ups are designed for those in the mentor program, now you would get with your mentor and do the follow-up work. Like, actually, there's mentors have a checklist to check off that you actually popped up your website. It's branded correctly. Your social media is up and branded correctly and things like that. So if you aren't in the mentor program and want me to be your checklist, hey, please send it to me, or send me the links, whatever. I'll look it over. I'll give you my thoughts. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.